You found me before the others could. That kind of instinct is dangerous, and I like it. Sit still, little one. I want to remember this moment. I felt the shift in the wind. So many souls guided here by moonlight and wonder. Come close. The story wants to be heard. My audio said fuck you and I saw it. I caught my audio being muted for once. I don't know why it does that sometimes. Anyway, hi, your book reading kitsune here, Scriptsune. So you may have noticed that Holy is fishing a lot. And the reason for that is we have decided to add the characters from the books we are reading to the pool. Right now we have over 90, we have 96, I think it was that I said, of the names in the pool right now. And so about 5 of those are actual people, like Husker, Wampus, Andrake, my Discord admin, and then Lechi. And the rest of them are characters from the first series of Warriors. What we're going to do once we are caught up is add characters as we are going in the book. But for right now, I have to kind of play catch up and add a bit of the names from the first series. And so we kind of have to wait a bit. I'm trying to add a handful of names right now because there's so many. And if I add too many at once, you guys will not have that much of a chance to get the legendaries. So I'm giving you guys a chance to use the fish command to get the legendaries. That way, you actually are able to get them a lot easier because the more fish I add to that pool, the harder it's going to be in order to actually... Nice watch streak. Damn, 25. What a good boy, Holy. Here you go. I haven't done that in a while. Yes, I still have that clicker. Anyway, so I'm going to be adding a couple each week until we are caught up with the names. And then eventually, when we're caught up, I will add the characters as we actually meet them. We did not originally start doing this with the fish pool, but I kind of wanted to make it more interactive with the stream and like our characters. I wanted to be able to do more with it. There's something else I'm trying to do with it. Once that happens, if that's actually able to be done, I will let you know. I'm trying to do something so that if you end up getting extras, that can go somewhere. So that way, if you're collecting them, you don't have all those extra fish. You know what I mean? But yeah, so thank you guys for coming in. And we're going to be doing 5 chapters. I usually do this every week if I am not sick. If I am sick, usually I'm building something, because if I'm sick, then I don't feel up to using my throat so often, because when I'm reading, I am using it a lot more than when I am chatting, because I am just constantly like just boring through all these lines. And I try to do my best to do it somewhat like in the tone of what's being read. I try my best to do that because I enjoy it, and I feel like everyone else should be able to enjoy that. So, pre-warning if you are new here and came here from last week from the raid, I do go up and pitch when there are scenes that require that. But I hope you guys enjoy it. So we're doing chapter 6 through chapter 10 today. If you are new here, we are doing the second Order series. We're on book 2. And currently, the characters have gone and ventured out. They met a badger, the name of Midnight, and they're on their way home to save their clans. And what happened in the first book is that they learned to work together. That was the whole emphasis of the first book, is that they were learning to work together. There's these cats from each clan that had to come together, and the 5th clan, which was Star Clan, had gave them the prophecies to go to this place to meet Midnight. And they learned to work together. They're going to take that back to their clans and convince them that they all need to work together and they need to leave their forest. That's the current standing point we're at. Right now, the clans themselves are not aware of this prophecy in its fullest, even if they try to be. Yes, you can chat with me even if I am reading, because I am capable of taking a quick moment to talk to you. Sometimes I will actually just stop reading for a little bit and chill, and then we'll get back to reading. I always end up doing as many chapters as I say I'm doing, whether that's 5, 10, or so on. Alright, shall we get started? I hope you enjoyed the fish, Holy. As I said, there's like 96 right now, so you have a lot to look for. Good luck trying to fill out that dex. It's gonna be like Pokemon. Large ass dex. Alright, let's get started. Chapter 6. Leafpaw burst up through the surface of the water, gasping for air as she scrambled to find solid ground. Managing to stand in spite of the river flowing strongly around her legs, she shook icy drops of water from her pelt. The river bank was only a couple of tail lengths away. She shivered in the pale sun of leafall as she looked up to see Mothwing peering down at her from an overhanging rock. Thank you for the maid headpiece and large belt, and apparently it doesn't want to even work. Hang on. I will activate those for you, since they didn't want to go on your end. Give me a moment. Thank you for the posture check as well. Let me put my bookmark here for the second so I can actually activate those. Come on, where are you? Commands. Not the commands, the channel commands? Oh, wrong thing. Channel points, there we go. You had large bell, hit play on that. And then the headpiece. There we go. I got it for you, Holy. I'm actually already sitting up straight, so you didn't even need to do a posture check there. I gotcha. Good try though, Holy. Good try. You know what? I'll take a sip of my energy drink instead, since I was already sitting up straight. You're gonna make okay. You're like, you know what? I'm gonna make you stretch. Fine. I have to actually get up and do that. Right at the start, though. Happy you made me get up. Hi, Wombus. Welcome in. Enjoy all the fish because there are a ton of them, and there's gonna be more added. Why are you posture? Holy bad. You already posture checked me once. You don't need to do it twice. Nice ear wiggles that don't appear in my chat. The River Clan's cat's amber eyes were narrowed in amusement. You don't fish by jumping in the river, she pointed out. I know that, Leafpaw retorted crossly. I slipped, that's all. I believe you, Mothwing purred, giving her golden chest fur a quick lick. Now come out and we'll have another go. I'll teach you how to fish if it's the last thing I do. Yeah, but you stood up and sat back down. Gotta make sure you sat down. Wow. Fair enough, Holy. Fair enough. I'm still not sure we should be doing this, Leafpaw meowed as she wadded back to the bank. Of course we should. Rabbits and squirrels are starting to disappear thanks to the two legs, but there's still plenty of fish for every cat. But I had to come onto River Clan territory to get it, Leafpaw pointed out anxiously. What'd Leopardstar say if she knew? Mothwing blinked. We're both medicine cats, so clan boundaries don't matter for us like they do other cats. Leafpaw didn't think that was how the warrior code worked. A friend had said much the same a couple days earlier, when she had rescued Leafpaw and Sorrowtail from the pursuing Wind Clan warriors. This morning, she had called to Leafpaw while she was gathering herbs near Stunning Rocks, and offered to give her a fishing lesson. Leafpaw had felt very nervous about crossing the clan border, but her hunger had driven her on, now that prey was becoming scarcer in ThunderClan territory. All the same, her ears and nose were alert for the first signs of RiverClan patrol. Okay, Mothwing went on. Crouch here beside me and look down into the water. When you see a fish, scoop it out with your paw. It's easy. A couple of glittering fish lying on the bank showed how easy it was for Mothwing. Leafpaw gave them a longing glance, wondering if she would ever learn. Want some? Mothwing offered, following her gaze. Leafpaw felt guilty at the thought of being full-fed while the rest of her clan went hungry. But she had not tasted fresh kill since the night before, and that had been only a stringy bowl. I shouldn't, she murmured, trying to convince herself that it wouldn't help her clan if she starved as well. Of course you can. Where's the harm? Leafpaw did not wait to be asked again. She crouched down in front of the fish, tucking her paws in and sank her teeth into the cool flesh. Delicious, she mumbled. Mothwing looked pleased. Learn how to do it, and you can take lots more for your clan. She took a few dainty bites, as if she were full-fed already, and didn't care whether or not she ate. Gulping down the rest of the fish, Leafpaw told herself that she would find food for her clan to make up for it. As soon as she had finished, she settled down on the rock beside Mothwing and concentrated on the water just below to wait for a fish of her own. An unfamiliar scent swept over her at the same instant Mothwing hissed. Hawkfrost! Leafpaw felt a paw jab hard into her ribs, tipping her over the edge of the rock and back into the river. She thrashed wildly, wondering why Mothwing was trying to drown her. Then as her head broke the surface, she saw a huge tabby shape of Hawkfrost approaching the bank, and realized that Mothwing had done the only thing she could do to hide her quickly. Catch any legendaries yet, Holy? I don't see any. Did you? Oh, you got Silverstream. Got Cinderfur. I'm not seeing any legendaries.
Why are you so sus?
Hi, thank you for the follow. I hope you're enjoying the story. This is the second series of Warriors. I was just taking a quick moment to see what Holy has fished out. We have added a bunch of the characters from the first series. I have to add more, but that will happen next week. Took a pause on that because I think 90 of them is a bit much. If I add more, then the legendary chances get lower and lower. Her paws working gently to keep her nose just above the water, Leafpaw let herself drift downriver for a few tailings until she came to a clump of reeds where she could crawl out on ThunderClan's side of the river and hide. Hawkfrost had stopped to talk to his sister, and Leafpaw realized that she would have to crouch where she was, soaked and shivering, until he went away and she could make a break across open ground to the ThunderClan border. Keeping my eyes open for WindClan, she heard him meow, when her ears were clear of water. I know very well they're stealing fish, and one day I'll catch them at it. Not down here, surely, Mothwing replied, innocently. WindClan would fish closer to 4 trees, if they're fishing at all. WindClan and ThunderClan, Hawkfrost growled. He added, I can scent a ThunderClan cat now. Leafpaw shivered and shrank down in her clump of reeds. So, the border's over there, Mothwing pointed out. It would be odd if he didn't scent ThunderClan. Hawkfrost grunted. Something not right in the forest. Cats have gone missing from all clans, for one thing. Do you remember what the other leaders said at the last gathering? That's 4 more cats, besides Stormfur and Feathertail. I don't know what's going on, but I'll find out. Leafpaw tensed. She had told Mothwing about the 2-legged monsters, but obviously Mothwing had not passed on the news to the rest of her clan. Chilled by hunger in Hawkfrost's voice, Leafpaw prayed to StarClan that she would say nothing about it now. To her relief, her friend meowed calmly. There's nothing wrong in RiverClan, so why should we care? Have you got bees in your brain? Hawkfrost snapped. This could be our chance to make RiverClan great. If the other clans are weak, we could rule over the whole forest. What? Mothwing sounded disgusted. You're the one with bees in your brain. Who do you think you are? Tiger Star? There are worse cats to imitate. Hawkfrost meowed. Pure icy fear lanced through Leafpaw. Tiger Star had been prepared to kill any cat who opposed him in his quest for supreme power. And now, another cat was preparing to follow his paw steps. Another thought sprang into her mind. This was what Mothwing must have meant when she talked about a cat with ambitions. On the day she rescued Leafpaw and Sorrowtail from the Wind Clan, she had been worried about her own brother. A few days before, Leafpaw had been sure that the forest would never produce another Tiger Star. Now she could only strain her ears, horrified, to make out what Hawkfrost would say next. "Have you forgotten what happened to Tiger Star?" Mothwing snapped. "He failed, and now he's just a name to frighten kids with." "I shall learn from his mistakes." Hawkfrost's voice rumbled deep in his chest. "Our mothers told us enough about him after all. He broke the warrior code, and he deserved to fail. I shall know better." Leafpaw stared at the reeds in front of her, puzzled. Hawkfrost's mother, Sasha, the rogue cat, had told them about Tiger Star. How did she know? Leafpaw had never met Sasha, the clanless she-cat, had stayed in RiverClan for only a short while, long enough to decide that she wanted her kids to be raised as part of the clan. No cat knew where she had been before then. In her bewilderment, Leafpaw had not noticed that the wind had changed, and that the playful breeze, twisting its way upriver, had carried her scent with it. "I can smell ThunderClan," Hawkfrost declared suddenly. Leafpaw's heart nearly jumped out of her chest. The scent's fresh, too. If one of the warriors are on our territory, I'll claw his fur off. Above her head, Leafpaw heard Mothwing scramble to her paws. "You're right," she exclaimed. "It's this way, come on." Leafpaw heard her voice growing fainter as she bounded away in the opposite direction. "Mousebrain," Hawkfrost argued. "It's downstream." Leafpaw didn't wait to hear any more. While he was following Mothwing, she broke out of the reeds and streaked up the bank towards ThunderClan border. She plunged thankfully into the thick bracken just on the ThunderClan side of the border. Turning to peer out again, she saw Hawkfrost padding downstream, stopping to give the clump of reeds where she had just been hiding a good sniff, before turning back to Mothwing with a frustrated growl. Once again, Leafpaw was struck by the powerful tabby's resemblance to some other cat. The thought bothered her like a tick she couldn't reach, because she still couldn't remember who. She was too far away to hear what the two RiverClan cats said to each other, but after a few moments, they both continued downstream to the stepping stones and crossed to RiverClan side of the river. When they finally disappeared into the reeds, Leafpaw drew a huge breath of relief and started trotting back to camp. The guilt she felt about her full belly was almost forgotten amid the pricklings of unease of what Mothwing had said. Hawkfrost sounded as ambitious as Tiger Star, and there was no place for that when the forest was on the brink of destruction. A gleam of dying sunlight pierced the clouds and lay like a streak of blood on the forest floor. Leafpaw guessed that Cinderpelt would be wondering where she was, but she needed time to figure out what Hawkfrost and Mothwing knew so much about Tiger Star. She sat down and began to groom her drying fur. Sasha had been a rogue cat wandering the forest, until she had come to RiverClan with her kits and settled briefly there. She might have visited ShadowClan when Tiger Star was leader. It was possible. Are you enjoying fish, Wampus? I see that Holy keeps getting rares and epics. Leafpaw froze. She realized which cat Hawkfrost resembled so strongly. Brambleclaw. And every cat knew who Brambleclaw's father was. Could it be possible that Tigerstar was Hawkfrost's and Mothwing's father as well? If he was, that would make Hawkfrost and Brambleclaw half-brothers. She started... Oh. She was staring into the trees as if she could see the answer there, when her thoughts were interrupted by the frantic beating of wings. She looked up to see a magpie fluttering out of the bushes and land on a branch above her head. At the same time, a loud voice exclaimed, "Mouse dung!" The bushes just ahead of her rustled violently, and Graystripe appeared, glaring up at the magpie with frustration in his yellow eyes. "Missed it," he muttered. "I don't know what's the matter with me." Leafpaw rose to her paws as the deputy approached, dipping her head respectfully and letting out a sympathetic purr. She hoped that her pelt was dry enough for Graystripe to not notice that she had been swimming. "Hello, Leafpaw," he meowed. "Sorry if I startled you, actually. I don't know what's wrong with me." He went on, and the tip of his tail twitched uneasily. "I can't get Feathertail and Stormfur out of my head. I wish I knew where they've gone. Brambleclaw and Squirrelpaw, too." Leafpaw felt another pang of guilt. She could save Graystripe so much worry if she told him what she knew about the prophecy. But she had promised the journeying cats that she would keep silent. "I feel like they're all safe," she ventured, "and that they'll come back to us." Graystripe looked up with a flicker of hope in his amber eyes. "Has StarClan told you that?" "Not exactly, but can't help wondering if it has something to do with the Two Lakes," Graystripe interrupted. "Cats go missing. Two Lakes invade us." His paws worked against the ground, tearing up the grass with his claws. "Graystripe, can I ask you something?" Leafpaw meowed, desperate to change the subject. "Sure, go ahead. Did you ever meet Sasha, Hawkfrost and Mothwing's mother?" Graystripe looked at her in surprise. "Once, at a gathering." "What was she like?" Leafpaw asked curiously. "Nice enough," Graystripe told her. "Quiet and ready to be friendly. A lot like Mothwing to look at. But it was clear that being amongst a lot of cats spooked her. I wasn't surprised when she left the forest as soon as Mothwing and Hawkfrost were old enough to do without her." "Does any cat know who their father was?" The deputy shook his head. "No, I always assumed it was another rogue." "Rogues?" There was the sound of paw steps behind them, and Leafpaw spun around to see Firestar approaching from the direction of camp. "Have you seen rogues?" he demanded, tension clear in every hair on his flame-colored pelt. "For StarClan's sake, that's the last thing we need right now." No, not at all," Graystripe meowed quickly. "Leafpaw was just asking about Sasha, and which cat fathered Mothwing and Hawkfrost." Firestar turned to look at Leafpaw, his green eyes puzzled. "Why do you want to know?" Leafpaw hesitated. She wasn't about to admit that she had been spending time with Mothwing in Riverclan territory. "Oh, I just saw Hawkfrost," she meowed. "He's patrolling on the border." Well, she comforted herself. That was not entirely a lie. There was no way she was going to mention her suspicions that Tigerstar had fathered Hawkfrost and Mothwing. Not when he and Firestar had been such bitter enemies. Firestar nodded. "Well, I have no idea. Sasha might have told some cat in Riverclan, I suppose." He padded across to Graystripe and touched noses with his old friend, as if he guessed the thoughts that were troubling him. Both cats had lost children among the 6 cats that vanished from the forest. They stared up into the trees, where a chilly wind was tugging leaves from branches, until they drifted down to join the other dead leaves on the forest floor. It must be cold, with no plan to shelter them each night, Graystripe murmured. At least they have one another, Firestar mewed, pressing himself against Graystripe's side. For a moment, both cats remained silent. Then Firestar turned to his daughter. Leafpaw, you sometimes know what Squirrelpaw is thinking, don't you? He told us she was with Riverclan cats. Have you any idea where they are now? Leafpaw blinked. She couldn't deny her father the chance to know if Squirrelpaw was alive, and she wanted to know just as fiercely. She shut her eyes and summoned her old rapport with her sister. Emptying her mind, she concentrated fiercely. She gasped to feel a surge of cold and wet, shuddering as a blast of cold wind probed her drying fur. But there was no sign of Squirrelpaw anywhere, just water, blasting air, and endless rock. Opening her eyes, Leafpaw blinked in confusion as she realized that her fur was dry and the forest was still. She had made contact with her sister after all. She's alive, she murmured. Beside her, Firestar's eyes lit up, and wherever she is, I think it must be raining. That was the end of chapter 6. Chapter 7. Stormfur opened his eyes and blinked in light that was sharp as a claw. His breath rasped in his throat, and every muscle in his body ached. He felt too exhausted to even move. As his vision cleared, he saw that he was lying on a rain-wet rock, beside a pool of churning black water. His ears were ringing. When he raised his head feebly, he saw a waterfall thundering down into the pool in a whirl of foam and spray, and realized that what he could hear was the roar and crash of falling water. At once, he remembered the flood that had swept him down from the rocks and plunged him into the pool. How had he survived? He remembered the roar, the foam, the darkness. Fear for his friend stabbed through him. Feathertail? Squirrelpaw? He mewed hoarsely. Over here. The reply was so faint. It was nearly lost in the endless pounding of the waterfall. Stormfur turned his head to see Squirrelpaw splayed out on the rock beside him, her dark ginger fur sodden. Got to sleep, she muttered, closing her eyes. Just beyond her, Stormfur could see Brambleclaw, stretched limply on his side. The ThunderClan warrior was staring up at the sky, his breathing fast and shallow. Crowpaw was on Stormfur's other side, with a feeling of horror. He thought the WindClan apprentice was dead, till he saw the faint rise and fall of his flank. What about Feathertail and Tawnypout? Beginning to panic, Stormfur struggled to sit up. At first, he could not see either of his sister or the tortoiseshell she-cat. Then a movement farther around the pool caught his eye. Near the waterfall, Feathertail was helping Tawnypout out on the rock. The ShadowClan warrior was tottering on 3 legs, and as soon as she reached solid ground, she collapsed and lay without moving. Feathertail hauled herself out, the gray fur plastered to her side so it looked almost black. She settled down beside Tawnypout and gave her shoulder a couple of feeble licks. Thanks, StarClan, Stormfur rasped out loud. We all made it. He vaguely knew they had to find shelter, that if they went on lying there, they were vulnerable to predators like the eagle. But he was too exhausted to move. He gave his drying fur a few licks, but even that was too much effort. He lay still, his senses drifting, his gaze fixed unseeingly on the rocks beside the pool. As his senses gradually returned, he noticed that they were laying in a curved bowl of a rock, open on the side where the stream surged out of the pool and headed down into the valley. Boulders covered the ground on either bank, a couple of spindly trees rooted among them. Lights shivered on the water. I don't know why they put shivered there instead of shimmered. That's a choice, I guess. The rain had almost stopped and the clouds were thinning out. Above Stormfur's head, rainbows danced in the spray thrown up by the waterfall. A thin beam of sunlight splashed on the rocks, a tail length away from him. He dragged himself painfully into it and sighed with pleasure at the warmth on his fur. You haven't gotten any legendaries, have you, Holy? Nope, you still haven't got any legendaries since earlier. I told you, the more I add, the more difficult it gets for the legendaries. That's why I didn't add more yet. I'll add more after this stream, but now is your chance to get the current legendaries, Holy. Good luck. It's a lot. A few heartbeats later, he thought he saw a flash of movement. He blinked, straining to focus his eyes. For a moment, all was still. Then he caught another flicker on the far side of the pool. His fur prickled. They were being watched. Stormford narrowed his eyes, gazing hard at the boulders near the waterfall. Brambleclaw, he whispered. Look over there. What? The ThunderClan warrior raised his head, peered around, and lay down again. Can't see anything. There! Stormfur hissed as movement flickered again, this time a tail length closer. He flexed his claws, knowing how helpless he and his friends were to defend themselves. Then a gray-brown shape detached itself from the rock and began padding toward him. Alright, Holy, have a nice eep. Thanks for the posture check. I'm still sitting up straight though. You're so silly, Holy. Around the edge of the pool, it was a cat. Before Stormfur could move, another cat appeared, and then another. A whole group of cats moving silently away from the rocks where they had been hidden. Camouflaged against the boulders, as if they were carved from stone themselves. They sat on the edge of the pool, staring unblinkingly at the group of half-drowned travelers. Stormfur swallowed hard. These cats were like none he'd ever seen before. Uniformly gray-brown with dull, flattened fur. Then one moved into the sunlight, and he realized their fur was covered with thick streaks of mud, helping them to blend into the rocks and hiding the real color of their pelts. Stormfur sat up, his muscles shrieking a protest. He prodded Squirrelpaw with one paw and whispered hoarsely, "Sit up very slowly. Whatever you do, don't say anything out loud." Squirrelpaw lifted her head and saw the watching cats and tried to scramble up with alarm flaring in her green eyes. Her movement disturbed Brambleclaw, who jumped up at once. Stormfur managed to get to his paws and stand beside him, thankful to have a strong ThunderClan warrior with him as they faced danger. Brambleclaw glanced around for the other cats. Feathertail, Tawnypelt, over here now. There was a commanding rasp in his voice, even though it shook with exhaustion. You too, Crowpaw. Crowpaw struggled up, for once not arguing, and went to help Feathertail. Tawnypet was leaning against her shoulder, hardly able to move. The three of them limped around the pool until they could see the bunch together with Stormfur and the others, their eyes wide and scared as they watched the strange cats. Stormfur knew they were too shaken and exhausted to defend themselves. But in spite of his fear, a pang of curiosity stabbed him. He wanted to know more about these strangers. They looked so different from any other cats he had known. The thought even flashed through his mind that they might help with food and shelter. Then he reminded himself he and his friends were unlikely to be made welcome after trespassing on the strange cat's territory, and the best they could expect was to be driven off. He hardly dared to breathe as the first cat approached and studied them all carefully. Padding close to Stormfur, he gave him an especially long scrutiny, barely sparing a glance for the cats on the other side of him. Stormfur tried to meet the staring yellow eyes, wondering uneasily what it was about him that interested the mud-clad cat so much. Is this the one? The tabby she-cat stepped forward eagerly. She spoke in the same language as the clan cats, though the sound of the words was strange to Stormfur's ears, and the question more confusing still. He watched her as she drew closer, her lithe body balancing easily on the slippery stones at the edge of the pool. Is this what we've hoped for? She persisted, reaching her clanmate's side. The first cat's head whipped around and he glared at the speaker. Silence, Brooke. Turning back to Stormfur, he asked roughly, Who are you? Have you traveled far? Stormfur heard Tawnypet mutter, What are these mud warriors? We're more than a match for them, and felt heartened by the Shadowclan cat's abrasive courage. Yes, we've come a long way, Squirrelpaw answered. Can you help us? Careful, Brambleclaw interrupted with a warning look. To the strange cat, he added, We're travelers trying to craft that. And I caught my own tongue. Give me a second. I'll try that second time. We're travelers trying to cross the mountains. We're not looking for trouble. But if you are enemies, we can fight. The cat narrowed his eyes. You have no wish for fighting. Your journey has brought you to the tribe of rushing water. You are welcome if you come in friendship, the tabby she-cat added, a glow in her amber eyes as she looked at Stormfur. Stormfur remembered that Midnight the Badger had spoken of cats who lived in tribes instead of clans. These must be the cats she meant, though she had said nothing to suggest the cats would encounter them on their journey home. Surely she must have known that they would come across the tribe as they crossed the mountains. Stormfur reminded himself that he had instinctively trusted Midnight. If the tribe had been dangerous, she would have warned them, or told them to go the other way. Instead, she had implied that this route had been laid down for them. Did that mean she thought that they were destined to meet the tribe? As the she-cat spoke, another of the strangers came padding up to look at Stormfur with a gleam in his eyes. Come on, Crag, he meowed to the first cat. We should take this one to the stone teller. What? Bramaclaw stepped forward to confront Crag, while Stormford tensed, his muscles in readiness for a fight. You're taking him nowhere without us. We want to talk to your leader. As Crag motioned, As Crag motioned the other cat back with an angry flick of his tail, the ThunderClan warrior relaxed. We only want to travel in peace, he went on. My name is Bramaclaw of ThunderClan. Crag bowed his head while stretching out one paw, an odd but polite gesture. My name is Crag, where eagles nest, he announced. And I am Brook, where small fish swim, the tabby she-cat added, stretching out a paw as Crag had done. Crag gave her a disapproving look, as if he was not happy that she had put herself forward. His gaze flicked past Bramaclaw and the rest, again on Stormford. What is this one's name? I'm Stonefur. He tried to push down the uncomfortable feeling that these cats' fascination gave him. I come from RiverClan. Stormfur, Crag repeated. I'm Squirrelpaw. The tense moment was broken as the ThunderClan apprentice spoke up. And I'm Crowpaw. I'm Feathertail, and this is Tawnypelt. Stormfur's sister fixed anxious blue eyes on Craig. Please, can you help her? Her shoulder is badly injured. Bramaclaw glared at Feathertail with a hiss of disapproval. This was no time to be admitting weaknesses to strangers. Instantly, Crowpaw stepped forward. She's right. He defended Feathertail. This clan might have a medicine cat who can help. Your words are strange to us, Crag responded. But we will help. Come with us now, and our leader will speak with you. Hang on, Crowpaw meowed. He's still shaky on his legs, but he was obviously trying hard to sound fit to defend himself. How far are we going? Not far, meowed Brook. Stormfur glanced at the watching cats around the edge of the pool. What else can we do except go with them? He murmured to Bramaclaw. We need to rest. He said nothing of his own misgivings about Crag's penetrating gaze. After all, any cat would stare if he found 6 half-drowned strangers in his territory. Bramaclaw nodded. All right, he meowed to Crag. We'll come. Good. Crag led the way along the edge of the pool, leaped up the first few rocks beside the waterfall, and then vanished behind the sheet of foaming water. Stormfur stared in astonishment, half expecting the strange cat to come hurling down into the pool again. Knocked off his paws by the waterfall. Then Brook stepped forwards, gesturing with her tail. This is the path of rushing water. Come. It's safe. The rest of the cats had risen to their paws and gathered around them. Stormfur felt uneasy that he and his friends were being herded after Crag, as if they were his prisoners. But he had no choice but to follow the mud-covered cats and scramble up the rocks. It was a hard climb after their fall, especially for Tawnypelt. He was limping heavily. Halfway up, she stumbled and almost slipped back into the pool until Brook darted forward to steady her. The ShadowClan warrior flinched away from her. I'm fine, she growled. As Stormfur hauled himself to where Crag had disappeared, he saw the tribe cat waiting for him on a narrow ledge of rock leading behind the waterfall. A dark hole gaped at the end of it. I'm not going in there, Squirrelpaw exclaimed. You'll be fine, Bramaclaw spoke reassuringly behind her. There's no danger, Crag meowed, padding confidently along the path and standing at the mouth of the hole. Stormfur swallowed. They had to trust these cats. There was no way that they could make it through the mountains without food and rest. Come on. Taking the lead, he edged along the path, pressing himself against the rock as far as possible from the sheet of thundering water. He was barely a tail length away from him. Spray misted his fur, and the rock underneath his paws was cold and slippery. Too tense to turn around, he could not be sure that the other cats were following him. He felt as if they were walking alone into an endless, thundering darkness. But the gaping hole led into a cave with steep, rocky walls, stretching nearly to the top of the waterfall. Stormfur paused on the threshold, peering past Crag at the soaring walls that ran with water. The scent of many more strange cats drifted out to him, hidden in the shadows around the edge of the cave. What's in there? Feathertail murmured nervously, trying to peer inside. She was shivering, her pelt so sodden that it looked almost as dark as Crowpaw's. Crowpaw brushed against her flank. Whatever happens, we'll be there together, he murmured. Stormfur suspected he was not supposed to hear that. He had to stop himself from spitting at Crowpaw or shooting an angry glare at his sister. There are far more pressing things to think about right now. Crag waved his tail once, again, and padded into the cave, turning back to check that the others were behind him. I don't like this, Squirrelpaw muttered. How do we know that we're going to find what we're gonna... gosh. I have to retake that one, hang on. How do we know what we're going to find in there? That is a very odd way of writing that question, I'm not gonna lie. Why would you ask how do we know what we're going to find in there? That's not even a proper way of saying something. No wonder it threw me off. It should have been instead of how do we know what we're gonna find in there, it should have been what do you think we're going to find in there? It would have been more ominous and less confusing. We don't, Bramaclaw replied. But we've got to face it. Everything on this journey happens for a reason. We owe it to the clans to see this through. Never thought it would be easy, Stormfur agreed, trying to shake off the deep sense of dread that overcame him at the thought of setting paw inside the cave. Well, if we have to do it, let's get on with it. Crowpaw pushed forward and led the way inside. Stormfur followed, the other cats crowding behind him. As he gazed around, he heard Tawnypelt mew quietly, as much to reassure herself as the rest of them. StarClan will be with us, even here. That was the end of chapter 7. And since that was 2 chapters, I'm going to take a quick break. And I'll be back to read the next 2 chapters. So I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. Remember, guys, fish exists. You should definitely try and fish while the amount of the different stuff in the pool is lower. Because I am going to be adding more of the characters from the first series. And damn, because I added the modifiers, there's a lot. Chapter 8. The cat leaps at you. Roll on your back, Cinderpelt instructed. Hi, thank you, welcome in. I'm Scriptsune, your book reading kitsune, and we are reading Warriors, the second series, which is the New Prophecy series, and book 2. Currently we are on chapter 8. I actually did this VTuber myself. My model, I did the art and the rigging. Then you attack his belly with your claws. Try it. Leafpaw waited as her mentor crouched in front of her, and then leaped into the air. Rolling over as Cinderpelt had told her, she dug her hind paws into the medicine cat's belly and flung her off to one side. Good, Cinderpelt meowed. She scrabbled to her paws awkward because of her injured leg. That's enough for now. The two cats had been training all morning in the sandy hollow. And though thick gray clouds covered the sky, Leafpaw's rumbling belly told her it must be close to sun high. She had enjoyed the session with her mentor. The exercise had been a good distraction from her warriors about the clan and the Two Legs, not to mention Squirrelpaw and the other cats who were traveling with her. She followed Cinderpelt down into the ravine before they reached the entrance to the gorse tunnel. Leafpaw heard a patrol returning close behind them. Turning, she saw Firestar, Dustpelt, and Swordtail. Firestar looked more worried than ever, while Dustpelt's brown tabby fur was bristling and his tail lashed furiously from side to side. Cinderpelt limped over to meet Firestar, while Leafpaw hurried to Swordtail's side. What in StarClan's name is going on? WindClan, Swordtail mewed, with a glance at the older warriors. They've been stealing prey from us. Leafpaw remembered the thin, desperate cats who had chased them out of the territory, and knew that she was not surprised at the news. We found scraps of rabbit fur and bones by the stream near 4 trees, Swordtail went on. They reeked of WindClan scent. It's because their rabbits have vanished, Leafpaw meowed. She pushed aside a guilty memory of how she had taken fish from RiverClan. It's still against the warrior code, Swordtail pointed out. Dustpelt was furious. So I see, meowed Leafpaw. She followed her friend down the gorse tunnel to find Firestar and Dustpelt standing beside the fresh kill pile. Her belly lurched when she saw how small it was. Look at it, Dustpelt gestured with his tail. How is that going to feed the clan? You have to do something about WindClan, Firestar. Firestar shook his head. We all know that Tallstar wouldn't allow his warriors to steal prey unless his clan was in real trouble. Tallstar might not know what's going on. Besides, ThunderClan is in trouble too. It's not as if we have prey to spare. Hello again, Wampus. I see that you are fishing in your spare time. I know, Firestar sighed. I'm worried about Ferncloud, Brown Warrior added. She's already lost a lot of weight, and she still has 3 kids to feed. If this goes on, I'll have to start rationing, Firestar decided. But meanwhile, we will do something about WindClan, I promise. Whirling around, he bounded across the clearing, leaped to the top of the high rock. As he yelled out the summons, the rest of the clan began to appear at once. Leafpaw was shocked to see how lean they were. She had never really noticed before the gradual change from day to day as prey got harder to find. But now they looked more like skinny WindClan cats than sturdy Forest-born ThunderClan warriors. Dustpot was right that Ferncloud in particular looked gaunt and exhausted. Her kids were thinner too, and they trailed after their mother as if they had no energy left to play. Were all the clans, apart from RiverClan, slowly going to starve? Leafpaw listened anxiously as Firestar told the rest of the clan what the patrol had discovered. Wails of indignation broke out at the news of WindClan cats had trespassed onto ThunderClan territory and stolen prey. WindClan needs to be taught a lesson, Cloudtail called out. I haven't had a sniff of rabbit for days. We should attack now, Mousefur put in, her brown fur bristling. No, Firestar meowed firmly. Things are bad enough without us looking for battle. Mousefur didn't argue, though she muttered something under her breath, and Cloudtail lashed his tail. Leafpaw saw Brightheart meow a few words to him, trying to calm him down. What are you going to do? Speckatail called out from the entrance to the Elder's den. Go and ask them nicely to not steal our food. You really think they'll take any notice? More voices were raised in protest, with more than one cat echoing Mousefur's demand to attack. No, Firestar repeated. I'm going to talk to Tallstar. He's a noble, trustworthy cat. Maybe he doesn't know that his warriors have been stealing prey. What good would talking do? Cloudtail snorted. Blackstar didn't listen when he went to talk to him. If you ask me, Speckletail rasped, you're crossing clan boundaries far too often. The last cat to ignore borders like that was Tigerstar. Leafpaw winced at the old she-cat's suggestion that their leader was anything like the murderous Tigerstar. She wasn't the only cat to be shocked. Several cats turned on Speckletail, hissing fiercely. But when Firestar replied, his voice was calm. Tigerstar wanted to satisfy his greed for power. All I want is to make peace. And as for Blackstar, he added to Cloudtail, Tallstar has always been more reasonable. That's right. Graystripes supported his leader from where he sat at the base of the high rock. Remember when Bluestar wanted to fight WindClan? Tallstar was ready to make peace then. But there wasn't a shortage of prey back then, Thornclaw reminded him. Right? Mousefur's tail lashed again. Some cats would do anything if their bellies are empty. Leafpaw listened in dismay as yowls broke out around her, agreeing with Mousefur. She spotted her mother, Sandstorm, exchanging an anxious glance with Graystripe. Firestar signaled with his tail for silence. That's enough. My mind is made up. All the clans are in trouble. This is no time to start fighting one another. Be careful, Firestar, Swordtail warned him, as the yowls of protest died into a discontented muttering. You may go in peace, but the other clans might not see it that way. She glanced at Leafpaw, reminding her of their narrow escape from WindClan only a few days ago. Firestar nodded. One clan will have to respect a patrol that looks strong enough to fight back, he meowed. I'll make it clear to Tallstar that there'll be trouble if he can't control his warriors and keep them on their own side of the border. But we won't be looking for a fight. With StarClan's help, we can avoid that. Leafpaw's mind filled with images of the scarred moorland she had seen when she visited WindClan territory, and the desperation of the warriors who had chased her. Every hair on her pelt shrank from the idea of attacking WindClan and making their plight even worse. Wampus, I have not seen any legendaries today. Like, not any. You have gotten pretty lucky because you got a couple last time. From last stream when I was actually working on the beginning of it. And we're gonna be adding more names, so good luck getting all of them. This is a bad time for all of us, she began hesitantly. We should be trying to help one another. Why don't we all share the fish in the river? There are still plenty of those. That's for RiverClan to say, not us, Greystripe pointed out, while Ashfur added, fishing's too difficult. No, it's not, Leafpaw protested. We can learn how. She noticed that some of the other cats were giving her a suspicious look, as if they were wondering what she knew about fishing. Embarrassed, she scuffled her forepaws on the ground. It's just an idea, she mumbled. But not one we can use, Firestar mewed decisively. Anxious not to draw any more attention to herself, Leafpaw bowed her head and sat looking at her paws, while Firestar chose the cats who'd make up the patrol to going to WindClan. Greystripe, of course, he began. Sandstorm, Dustpelt, Thornclaw, Ashfur, and you, Cinderpelt. Tallstar will listen to a medicine cat if he won't listen to me. Leafpaw realized that he had not chosen any of the cats who had been arguing for an attack straight away, though he had included some formidable fighters. This patrol would not need to run. She stayed where she was while the meeting broke up, with her eyes still fixed on the ground. She was aware of Firestar leaping from the high rock and padding over to her. Well, Leafpaw, he began. When she lifted her head, she was relieved to see the warm affection in her father's eyes, and felt even more ashamed of herself. It's all this about fishing. Leafpaw knew she would have to tell the truth. Mothwing taught me how, she explained. She said it was okay, because we're both medicine cats. You are a medicine cat, apprentices, Firestar meowed. And it sounds as if we both have a lot to learn. You know that it's against warrior code to take prey from another clan. Even medicine cats have to respect that. I know. Guilt swept over Leafpaw again, making her feel like a naughty kid. She just hoped that RiverClan had not found out what Mothwing had done, and punished her for her generosity. I'm sorry. I shall have to punish you, you realize that? Firestar went on, his tail tip touching her shoulder, gently as he added, I can't have any cat saying I favor you because you're my daughter. Oh, come on, Firestar. Cinderpelt had limped up to join them, and was regarding her clan leader with amusement. I remember a couple of cats who took ThunderClan prey across to RiverClan, when the Two Legs poisoned the fish. Surely you haven't forgotten. No. And Greystripe and I were punished for it, Firestar retorted. Then he sighed. Leafpaw, I know it's hard to see the other cats hungry and do nothing about it, but the warrior code is what makes us what we are. If cats can break it when they feel like it, Where does that leave us? Whatever is going to happen to the forest, whatever is happening now, we can't forget everything we believe in. I'm sorry, Firestar, Leafpaw repeated. She managed to stand up straight and look her father in the eye. Let her come with a patrol to Windclan. Cinderpelt meowed before Firestar could speak. It'll be a good experience for her. Leafpaw looked hopefully at her clan leader. Honestly, Cinderpelt. Firestar sounded exasperated. There are cats who would say that's a reward, not a punishment. Oh, very well, he added. We're leaving right away. I'll just go and get the others. He touched Leafpaw's shoulder once more before patting away with his tail high. Thanks, Cinderpelt, Leafpaw mewed. I know I was stupid, it's just that, well, when Mothwing said it, it sounded okay to take the fish. Hi, welcome in. Currently reading Warriors, second series, which is the New Prophecy series. And we're on, let's see, chapter 8. We're going to chapter 10 this stream. So welcome in, and I hope you enjoy yourself. Cinderpelt snorted. Like Firestar said, you've both got a lot to learn. I don't know if I ever will, Leafpaw bursted out. There are warrior rules, medicine cat rules, and it's all so confusing. Okay, yeah, it's the warrior cat series. It's not just about the rules, Cinderpelt murmured sympathetically, touching her nose to Leafpaw's muzzle. Your sympathy for the other clans, and your willingness to see that sometimes rules have to be ignored, will make you a great medicine cat in the end. Leafpaw's eyes widened. Really? Really, medicine cat means nothing on its own. Without an understanding of what should be done, which isn't always what you first think. Remember what I've told you about Yellowfang? She never followed the rules, but she is one of the best medicine cats the forest had ever seen. Hope you're doing fine. It's a nice Monday. It's pretty sunny out today. I wish I'd known her, Leafpaw murmured. So do I, but I can pass on to you what she taught me. To be truly a medicine cat lies in a cat's heart and all its 5 senses. You must be braver than warriors, wiser than a clan leader, humbler than the tiniest kid, more willing to learn than any apprentice. Leafpaw gazed up at her mentor. I'm not sure I can be all that, she whispered. Well, I am sure. Cinderpelt's voice was low and intense. For we do not achieve this by ourselves, but by the strength of StarClan within us. Suddenly, the intensity was gone, and the humor back in Cinderpelt's eyes. She swatted Leafpaw lightly with her tail. Come on. Firestar would never forgive us if we aren't ready for the patrol on top of everything else. Sunhigh was long gone, and a brisk wind was breaking up the clouds by the time Firestar led his patrol towards Fort Cheese. Before they were very far from the camp, Leafpaw could hear the roar of 2-legged monsters as they forced their way further into ThunderClan territory. In contrast, the usual forest sounds, the calling of birds, the rustle of prey in the underground, were silent. even though Leafpaw had well and truly arrived. Leafpaw knew there should be much more prey than this. The small creatures that the cats depended on for their survival were gone. Frightened away by Two Legs, or even killed as the monsters tore up their forest homes. As they drew closer to Four Trees, the roar of the monsters died away, and Leafpaw could make out the faint scrabblings of prey among the bushes. But it was still much less than usual. She swallowed nervously as she imagined a harsh and hungry leaf bear. It's going all right, Husky. I thought you were resting. Did you take a nap already? It's raining here. I am so perfect to listen to some stories. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I have I have all the Warrior series right now. I even have the prologue series. So eventually when we make it through the series, so like 1, 2, 3, 4, we're gonna circle back around to the prologue series because it was actually after all the other series were made. And then after we have the Warrior series done, then we have the Ranger Apprentice series. And I have all the books for that, and that's on my shelf. So after Ranger's Apprentice, then I'm gonna like either look at suggestions or try and get a hold of the Vampirite series. These are all series I read when I was in high school. Had another beer and just watching anime, of course you are. Rain is nice to listen with stories. It's like nice background sound when you're listening into stories. Husky. I'm constantly seeing your Crunchyroll, and it's constantly telling me you're watching anime. I'm not surprised. A yowl from Thornclaw jerked her out of her thoughts. Look! There is a flash of movement in the thick undergrowth beside the stream. 2 cats, dark brown Tom and a tabby, leaped across the stream and streaked up the slope towards Four Trees. One of them had a small piece of prey, a vole or a mouse, in its jaws. Thank you for the lurk, Husky. Have fun with your anime. WindClan cats, Sandstorm meowed, her pale ginger fur bristling. That was a Mudclaw and Tornir, I'm sure of it. Dustpelt and Ashfur sprang after the fleeing warriors. But Firestar called them back sharply. We mustn't look as if we're attacking WindClan, he told them. I'm coming in peace, not fury, to speak with Tallstar. You mean you're letting them go? Ashfur asked disbelievingly. With our fresh kill in their mouths. It's more proof that they're stealing prey, Firestar pointed out. Tallstar won't be able to ignore what we have to tell him now. But they'll warn Tallstar, Dustpelt protested. WindClan could ambush us before we get anywhere near their camp. No, Tallstar isn't like that. If he fights us, he'd do it in the open. The 2 warriors exchanged doubtful glances before falling in behind Firestar. Leafpaw could see that Dustpelt was still smoldering with anger, but he expressed it with no more than an irritable twitch of his tail tip. The patrol crossed the stream, the water still churned and muddy from the WindClan warriors' paws, and climbed the slope to Four Trees. Leafpaw's heart started beating uncomfortably as Firestar led them around the top of the hollow. Remembering her doomed visit with Sorrowtail, she wondered whether they were able to speak to Tallstar at all. As they approached the border, the breeze carried a strong scent of cats towards them. Leafpaw looked out over the wind-blown grass to see a ragged group of WindClan warriors racing over the crest of the moorland. In the lead, he recognized the clan leader, Tallstar, by his black and white pelt and long tail. He must have spotted the ThunderClan patrol, so he slackened his pace and signaled with his tail. His warriors slowed to a walk and spread out to form a long line facing the ThunderClan cats. "See?" Dustpelt hissed. "They're ready for us." On an unspoken command, the WindClan cats stalked up to the border and halted a couple tail lengths from the ThunderClan patrol. They were even thinner than Leafpaw remembered, the sharp lines of their ribs plainly visible. Hostility burned in their eyes, and it was clear that not one of them wanted the ThunderClan visitors to set paw on their territory. "Well, Firestar," Tallstar growled, "what do you want with us this time?" That is the end of chapter 8. So, a little bit for what happened before this, since you kind of just showed up in, I'd say, the middle of the book. In the first book of the second series, the humans, or what they call in the book is Two Legs, started using the tree chompers and machines like that to tear up the forest, and they're going to make another highway. And it's actually ruining all the cats' lives. And that's what kind of the original prophecy in this series was for. So all the cats, the different clan cats from each clan went on a journey. And that's why you see like two different scenarios going back and forth between those cats and the clan cats. But it's making them have a very, very harsh fall. The fall season is sucking for them right now, essentially. But once they met Midnight in the first book, they were told that they need to actually leave the forest because humans can't be dealt with. Not for them. They'll have to leave the forest and take all the clans with them to survive. Essentially is what is going on in this series. But they don't know that yet. Only the cats that left with the prophecy know that. So those cats have to make it back to the clan to gather up and rouse all these cats to combine them together into one uniform and leave the forest. That's what we're waiting on. Chapter 9. Stormfur stared in amazement. The cave was the least as broad as the waterfall that screened it from the outside world, and stretched far back into the mountainside until the furthest recesses were lost in shadow. You could just make out the narrow passage leading off on either side of the wall opposite the sheet of water. The roof, far above his head, was shadowed too, here and there. Stones like fangs emerged to point straight down at the cave floor. The only light that came through the rushing water, pale and wavering, so that it was like standing in the depths of a pool. As the cats ushered them further into the cave, Stormfur heard more running water beneath the roar of the falls, and saw a stream trickling over a mossy rock fall into a shallow pool on the floor of the cave. 2 or 3 cats, a skinny elder and a couple looked young enough to be apprentices, were crouched beside it to drink. All of them looked up warily at the arrival of newcomers, as if they were expecting danger. Just beyond the pool was a pile of fresh kill, and as Stormfur watched, a couple more of mountain cats came in and deposited prey. It was the first thing he had seen that looked at all familiar, and his belly growled with hunger at the sight of the rabbits. "Do you think they'll let us eat?" Squirrelpaw muttered close to his ear. "I'm starving." For all you know, they think we're fresh kill, Crowpaw hissed from Squirrelpaw's other side. They haven't done anything to harm us yet, Brambleclaw pointed out. Stormfur tried to share his optimism, but Crag and Brook had vanished. And for a few moments, none of the other cats came up to speak to them. Instead, the cats who had been drinking sidled over to their guards, and the elder whispered something, all while darting glances at him. The two apprentices murmured excitedly at each other. The roar of the waterfall drowned their voices, though Stormfur noticed that the mountain cats seemed to have no trouble hearing one another, trying to ignore the muttering, most of which seemed to be directed at him, though he told himself to stop being so paranoid. Stormfur identified what looked like sleeping places beside the cave walls. Shallow scoops in the earth floor, lined with moss and feathers. One cluster of sleeping places lay close to the entrance, and the other two were further back, at opposing sides of the cave. He wondered if one set was for warriors, one for apprentices, and one for elders. Spotting a couple of kits scuffling outside the entrance to one of the passages, he guessed that led to the nursery. Suddenly, he saw the dark, noisy, frightening cave in a different way. This was a camp. The tribes shared some of the ways of the clans in the forest. Stormfur began to feel much more hopeful of getting food and rest, and help for Tawny Pal, who had been sunk shivering to the floor. Why would he say sunk shivering to the floor? There's a few sentences in this book that I'm just not happy with how it's laid out. Wouldn't it have been sank? Because sunk is... Whatever. I can't be too picky. Then he spotted Crag again, emerging from the far passage and padding across the cave floor towards the tight group of forest cats. He was followed by another cat, long-bodied and skinny as a WindClan warrior. So much mud plastered on his fur that Stormfur couldn't make out what color it was underneath. But his eyes were deep and glowing green, and a few white hairs around his muzzle betrayed the fact that he was older than the cats they had seen so far. Greetings, he meowed in a deep voice that seemed to echo around the cave. He made the odd gesture with one paw extended that Crag and Brook had used outside. My name is Teller of the Pointed Stones, though you'll find it easier to call me Stone Teller. I am the healer of the tribe of Rushing Water. Healer? Brambleclaw glanced uncertainly at his friends. Do you mean the medicine cat? Where's the leader of your clan, tribe? Stone Teller hesitated for a moment. I am not sure what you mean by a medicine cat, and there is no other leader of this tribe. I interpret the signs of rock, leaf, and water, and that shows me what the tribe should do. With the help of the tribe of endless hunting. Stormfur picked out a bit of the Stone Teller's speech that he had understood. Then he's medicine cat and leader, he muttered to Brambleclaw. That's pretty powerful. In reply, Brambleclaw dipped his head politely. You come from a forest a long way from here, he began, repeating his own name and the names of his friends. Hi, Lechi! Welcome in! We have a difficult journey ahead of us, and we need food and shelter before we can go on. How are you doing, Lechi? Have you come to fish? I'm gonna tell you now, there's been so many fish commands already, and no one has gotten a legendary yet. So I wish you luck. There's a lot of fish, and there's gonna be more added. Yeah. Right now is your chance to get legendaries, otherwise, you're going to have a difficult time when I add more. More of the tribe cats crowded around us as he spoke, openly curious. Stormford picked out kits and apprentices by their sizes, and noticed that the warriors seemed to divide into two groups. One with massive shoulders and powerful muscles, the other more slender with a wiry strength and long limbs for speed. He noticed too how anxious they all looked. They seemed to be on edge, as if they were poised to flee. A brown tabby she-cat, her eyes fixed on Stormfur, murmured, "Yes, this is the one, it must be." Lurking with Wampus right now, so I'll be lurking and fishing occasionally. Alright. Have a nice lurk, Letchy. And fish. Hopefully you get a legendary, good luck. Stormfur started. Brooke had said something similar when they first met outside the pool. He opened his mouth to ask what she meant, but the tribe's healer had turned to the young brown tabby. "Be silent," he hissed. More smoothly, he went on to the clan cats. "You are welcome to our cave. Here is caught prey in plenty." He flicked his tail towards the fresh kill pile. "Eat your fill and rest. We have much to say to one another." Brambleclaw looked at the other clan cats. "Might as well eat," he meowed quietly. "I don't think they're going to hurt us now." As Stormfur followed him towards the pile, he felt once more dozens of eyes burning into his fur. It wasn't his imagination. They were definitely watching him more closely than the others. His fur prickled from nose to tail tip as he settled down to eat. As he bit into the rabbit he had chosen, he heard a gasp somewhere behind him and a shocked voice whispering, "They don't share." Glancing up, he saw a young gray cat giving him a hostile stare, while an older tabby bent her head to him and murmured, "Shh, it's not their fault if they haven't been properly taught." Stormford didn't know what they meant. Then he spotted the tribe cats who were eating side by side. Each of them took a bite from the piece of fresh kill they had taken, then exchanged pieces before they settled down to finish it. Embarrassment flooded over him as he realized how rude he and his friends must look to the cats of the tribe. "We don't do that," he meowed directly to the young cat who had spoken first. "But we do share." Flicked his tail towards Feathertail, who was gently coaxing Tinypelt to eat a mouse. None of us would let our friends go hungry. And the hunting patrols always feed the clan before taking food for themselves. The gray cat backed away a pace or two, looking confused, as if he hadn't intended the newcomers to hear his comments. The tabby dipped her head with a friendlier look. "Your ways are strange to us," she meowed. "Perhaps we can learn from one another." "Perhaps," Stormfur agreed. He began gulping down his rabbit again. After a few moments, one of the bolder kits pattered right up to the group of clan cats, urged on by his littermates. "Where do you come from?" he asked. "A long way away," Squirrelpaw mumbled, with her mouth full, swallowing the bit of prey she had added. More clearly, "across these mountains, lots of fields, and then a forest." The kit blinked. "What are fields?" Before Squirrelpaw could reply, he added, "I'm going to be a cave guard." "That's nice," Feathertail mewed. "Of course, I've got to be first." "To be? What's a to be?" asked Crowpaw. Stormfur hid his amusement at the scornful look the kit gave the Wind Clan apprentice. A 2B, a cave guard, of course. You know, training and stuff. Don't you new cats know anything? He means an apprentice, Stormfur explained, and couldn't resist adding, like you. Crowpaw curled his lip as the kit stared at him and exclaimed, "You're only a 2B? You're way old." It sounds as if they have some of the same traditions as us, Tawny Pelt murmured. I wonder if they believe in StarClan, Squirrelpaw whispered. It's too far for them to go to Mother Mouth, meowed Stormfur. No cat has ever seen them there. Stoneteller mentioned the tribe of endless hunting. Feathertail remembered. Perhaps that's what they call StarClan. Her blue eyes stretched wide and her voice was uneasy as she added, or do you think they have another, very different warrior ancestors? I don't know, Grandmaclaw replied, but I guess we'll find out. When he finished eating, Stormfur had not felt so comfortably full since they left the woods where they said goodbye to Midnight and Purdy. He would have liked to sleep, but as he swallowed the last mouthful and swiped his tongue around his jaws, he spotted Stoneteller, making his way towards them with the other 3 cats. One of them was Crag. The others were she-cats, though neither of them was Brooke. Stormfur felt faintly disappointed. The young she-cat had shown courage and friendliness when they first met, and he had looked forward to seeing her again. Have you eaten well? Stoneteller asked as he approached. Very well, thanks, Grandmaclaw replied. It's good of you to share prey with us. Why wouldn't we? Stoneteller sounded surprised. Mountain prey is not ours. It belongs to the stones in the mountain. He sat down in front of the forest cats, wrapping his tail neatly around his paws. The other 3 cats gathered around them, but remained standing. Grandmaclaw looked expectantly at them. Crag, you already know, meowed Stoneteller, introducing his companions. He's the leader of our cave guards, the cats who protect this place, he added. And the clan cats looked confused. This, he flicked his tail towards the younger of the 2 she-cats, is Mist, where sunlight shimmers. She is one of our best prey hunters. Mist dipped her head and blinked with friendly interest at the forest cats. And this, Stoneteller went on, indicating the other she-cat, is Star that shines on water. For now, she is a kit mother, though when her kits are grown, she'll go back to being a cave guard. You all have different duties then? Tawny Pelt questioned, as the other forest cats murmured greetings. You know, I don't even think it mentioned these cats. I'm gonna have to, 1 second, I'm gonna make a note to myself to add these. I want to add these characters to the pool later on when I actually catch up. Cave cats. Let's see. Additional characters. In book 2 of the 2nd series. I just want to make that note so I don't forget that they exist, because it doesn't have it in the beginning of the book, but I want to still be able to add them, because I have a feeling that they're going to show up in the next book too. Now then, where was I? Okay. Mist dipped her head and blinked with friendly interest at the forest cats. And this, Stoneteller went on, indicating the other she-cat, is Star that shines on water. For now she is a kit mother, and when her kits are grown, she will go back to being a cave guard. You all three have different duties then? Tawny Pelt questioned, as the other forest cats murmured greetings. We do, Stoneteller replied. Do you choose the best fighters to be cave guards and the fastest cats to be prey hunters? Stormfur asked, fascinated, in spite of his wariness. Good luck, Wampus. Stoneteller twitched his whiskers in disagreement. No, all cats in our tribe are born to their duties. That is our way. But tell us something more of yourselves. He went on, interrupting Squirrelpaw, as she was about to ask another question. Why are you making this long journey? I've never seen cats like you before. Brambleclaw gave Stormfur a sideways glance and muttered, What do you think? Do we tell them? I think we have to tell them we were sent by StarClan. Stormfur breathed his reply close to the Tabby warrior's ear, aware of how acute the mountain cat's hearing was. Otherwise, they might think we're outlaws. But don't tell them why we made the journey in the first place. He added, We don't want to sound weak. Brambleclaw nodded, clearing his throat self-consciously. He began to explain about the dreams of each four chosen cats had received from StarClan, and the saltwater signs that had led them to the sun-drowned place where they met midnight. More of the tribe cats gathered warily around to listen. Stormfur spotted admiring glances from them as Brambleclaw spoke of the dangers they had faced. But there were a few suspicious mutterings too, as if some of them found it hard to trust these strangers. Don't worry, he put in. When Brambleclaw paused in his story, StarClan hasn't sent us to fight you. They didn't say anything about meeting you, in fact. StarClan? Mist echoed, glancing at Stoneteller in bewilderment. What is StarClan? Stormfur heard Tawny Pelt stifle and exam... You know what? Hang on. Water. That'll help. Stormfur heard Tawny Pelt stifle an exclamation of surprise. Feathertail was right, after all. These cats were not guided by StarClan. His fur prickled as he suppressed a shiver at the thought that perhaps StarClan was not watching over him and his friends in this strange place. Do not be troubled, Stoneteller meowed, touching Mist's shoulder with the tip of his tail in a reassuring gesture. Not all cats believe as we do, and we must respect that which we do not know. Ignorance is not something to be afraid of. Please, he gestured towards Brambleclaw with one paw. Continue. So at last we came to the sun-drowned water and discovered that midnight is a badger. Brambleclaw explained. She told us the meaning of StarClan's prophecy, and how we're going home to tell our clans. A prophecy? Stoneteller meowed. His green gaze was fixed on Stormfur in a stare of eerie intensity. Then you have visions of what is hidden. Well, sometimes we have dreams, Tawny Pelt explained. But mostly our medicine cats interpret signs for us. Clouds, the flight of birds, the fall of leaves. This I do also, Stoneteller mewed. He broke off as a group of cats appeared in the cave entrance. Rising to his paws, he murmured, Forgive me. These are cave guards returning from patrol. I must hear what they have to tell me. Dipping his head, he walked off to meet the leader of the group. Mist and Star stayed with the forest cats. Stormfur was struck again by how anxious the tribe cats looked. And he realized that so far he had not seen any of them enjoying themselves. No apprentices play fighting, no warriors sharing tongues, or elders gathering to exchange gossip and stories. The whole tribe seemed to live in an atmosphere of suppressed fear. Are you okay? Tiny Pout meowed to Mist, echoing Stormfur's thoughts. Look worried. Something wrong? Are you being attacked by another tribe? Squirrelpaw added. No, there are no cats to attack us, Star replied. There are no others in the mountains that we know of. How could there be another tribe when we guard the cave with pointed stones? What's that? Meowed Crowpaw. His question was ignored. Mist exchanged a swift glance with the Star and murmured, Should we tell them? Stormfur barely caught the words, and he realized that he had not meant to hear her. A hiss came from one of the tribe cats, who crept closer to listen to the conversation. More than one of them looked scared or angry with Mist. What are you afraid of? Stormfur persisted, his fur beginning to prickle with dread of the unknown. Nothing, Star replied, or nothing we may speak of. Rising to her paws, she dipped her head and began to walk away, gesturing with her tail for Mist to follow her. Mist gave the forest cats a backward glance. Her eyes filled with fear before she vanished into the shadows of the back of the cave. The other cats, too, began to creep away. Mystified, Stormfur turned to Brambleclaw and sat his own apprehension reflected in the Thunderclan cat's amber eyes. What is that all about? He muttered. Brambleclaw shook his head. StarClan knows, but whatever it is, it's obvious something is frightening them. I wonder why they don't want to tell us what it is. That's the end of chapter 9. Since I read 2 more chapters, I'm going to take a quick break. Then I'll come back and finish the last chapter for the stream. And be right back. Poor Wampus. Wampus, Lechy, Holy. None of you have caught a legendary yet. I'm gonna stretch for a second. One moment. Okay. You guys ready for this last chapter? Alright, let's go. Chapter 10. Leafpaw gazed along the line of hostile WindClan cats, locked eyes with a bracken-colored apprentice. The young cat drew its lips back in a snarl. Leafpaw's fur prickled. She was a medicine cat, supposed to be outside normal clan rivalries. But she found her claws instinctively flexing into the soft moorland grass. If it came to a fight, that apprentice would soon discover that she was not lacking in warrior skills. Well, Firestar did not immediately answer his question. Tallstar repeated it. Why have you come? Do you think we're so weak that you can drive us out, as Brokenstar did? Defiant yowls and hisses broke out from the warrior behind him, and it was a moment before Firestar could make himself heard. Tallstar, you have known nothing but friendship from me, since the time that Graystripe and I found you and brought you home. He replied. Have you forgotten that? I think you must have, or you wouldn't accuse me of being like Brokenstar. Leafpaw thought she detected a flash of guilt in the older cat's eyes, but there was still a challenge in his voice as he meowed. And why have you come here with so many warriors? Don't be absurd, Tallstar, Firestar growled. I haven't enough warriors to take on your whole clan. We want to talk to you, that's all. WindClan have been stealing prey from ThunderClan territory. And you know as well as I, that is against the warrior code. Tallstar looked taken aback, as if he genuinely hadn't known that his warriors were up to. Before he could reply, his deputy, Mudclaw, called out, Prove it! Prove it that WindClan has stolen so much as snippet prey. What? Leafpaw saw Graystripe's whole body stiffen. We saw you ourselves just now, and we found prey bones reeking of WindClan's scent. So you say, Mudclaw sneered. If you ask me, it's just an excuse to attack us. Furious, Graystripe launched himself across the border, his claws reaching out as he bowled over the WindClan deputy. Mudclaw let out a screech, and the two cats rolled on the short moorland grass. Tallstar gazed down at the two battling warriors with a look of contempt, as if he had found maggots in his fresh kill. Warriors on both sides were poised to spring, their teeth bared and the light of battle in their eyes. Leafpaw's heart beat faster as she tried to remember the fighting moves her mentor had taught her. Firestar stepped forwards with a fierce hiss. Stop! At once, Graystripe broke away from Mudclaw's raking claws and stood back, breathing heavily. Mudclaw scrambled to his paws and glared at him. Graystripe, I told you you were not here to fight. Firestar meowed. The deputy's yellow eyes were smoldering. But did you hear the lies he just told? Yes, but that doesn't change my orders. Get back onto the side of our border now. His tail twitching angrily. Graystripe obeyed. Leafpaw understood how he must feel, especially when he was still worrying about his missing children. But she could also guess how uncomfortable it must be for Firestar when his friend and deputy disobeyed a direct order, and in full view of WindClan. I see you're having fun, Wampus. Legendary energy, good luck. Sending legendary energy your way right now. Doing it right now. You can do it. I believe in you. She stifled a sigh. Was this part of being a medicine cat? To understand every cat so clearly and want to sympathize with them all. That's not a legendary. Cinderpelt limped forwards to stand beside Firestar. You know medicine cats do not lie. She meowed to Tallstar. You know too, that it is not the will of StarClan for warriors to trespass on the territory of other clans and steal their prey. And is it the will of StarClan for my clan to starve? Tallstar asked bitterly. Yesterday, one of our elders died. And he will be the first of many if we do not do something. If we could help you, we would, Cinderpelt replied with feeling. But ThunderClan is short of prey too. The whole forest is suffering because of Two Legs. We should work together, Firestar added. I swear to you, by StarClan, that if ThunderClan finds an answer to these problems, we will share it with WindClan. Tallstar met his gaze with long, thoughtful look, his bitterness dying away and leaving deep sorrow behind it. You thought it was easy. Well, technically it's gonna be easier than when I add more fish. So, the more fish, the more difficulty. So, right now, the difficulty is less than when I add more fish tomorrow. If that makes sense. Because every fish I add lowers the percentage that legendaries get, if that makes sense. An answer? Firestar, I don't think that even you can find an answer to our troubles. Unless you'd let us hunt on your territory. Even while he was speaking, he shook his head. To show Firestar, he did not make that suggestion seriously. No, you have a right to keep your own prey. The warrior code demands that you feed your own clan first. WindClan does not ask you for your help. Firestar dipped his head to the WindClan leader. Tallstar, we promise you that ThunderClan has not lied to you. There will be no fighting now, but if the prey stealing doesn't stop, you know what to expect. He turned and walked away, gesturing with his tail for his warriors to follow him. As they withdrew, yells of derision rose from the WindClan warriors, as if they had fought a battle and driven invaders away from their territory. Leafpaw felt her neck fur rise, half expecting the rival clan to pursue them like the warriors had pursued her and Sorreltail a few days before. But the sounds died away behind them, as Firestar led the way around the top of the hollow at Four Trees, and down the slope towards the stream. Why didn't we fight it out? Dustpelt demanded. We could have taught them a lesson that they couldn't forget in a hurry. I know, Firestar sighed. But as I said before, the clans cannot afford to turn on one another. And when our patrols catch WindClan stealing prey again? Dustpelt's tail twitched. He was short-tempered at the best of times. And Leafpaw knew how anxious he was about Ferncloud and their kids. We'll see them off if we catch them trespassing, Firestar promised. But let's pray to StarClan that Tallstar sees sense and keeps his warriors on their own territory. I don't think he knew what was going on until today. Maybe not, but he'll be back. His own warriors now. Dustpelt paused, his brown tabby fur bristling, as if he could see his enemy in front of him. Why don't you go and hunt for a bit? Firestar suggested. See if you can find a bit of fresh kill for Ferncloud. Dustpelt glanced at him, his neck fur beginning to relax. Okay, I will. And a reluctant growl added, Thanks. Swiftly, he turned and disappeared into the thicker vegetation beside the stream. Firestar watched him go, his expression full of sorrow. Leafpaw could hardly bear to see his frustration and helplessness. She knew he would never give up. Not before the monsters had destroyed every last tree in the forest. But it looked like the time when that might happen was drawing near. And what would Firestar do then? As she followed him across the stream towards the ThunderClan camp, she struggled yet again with the guilt she felt about not telling her father what she knew about Squirrelpaw and Brambleclaw. Perhaps now was the time to speak up, to relieve some of his anxieties about them, and to assure him that StarClan knew about the suffering in the forest, and had their own plan to relieve it. But what would Firestar say to her, when she had kept silent for so long? Leafpaw shrank at the thought of his anger. Seeing that Cinderpelt had dropped a little way behind the other cats, she wondered if her mentor might have the answer. She could tell Cinderpelt. The medicine cat would understand, perhaps help her to pass the news on to Firestar. Leafpaw waited for a mentor to catch up to her. Cinderpelt, she began, anticipating the medicine cat's usable, sensible, no-nonsense advice. But when Cinderpelt turned to her, her blue eyes were clouded with pain. I've heard nothing from StarClan, she mewed without giving Leafpaw the chance to speak first. Have they abandoned us? It can't be their will for the Two Legs to destroy us all. As if to emphasize her desperation, the roar of the two-legged monsters thundered in the distance. Though she couldn't see them from here, Leafpaw could picture all too clearly the garish, glittering pelts and vast black paws that tore up the forest as easily as Dustpelt's claws. She brushed comfortingly against her mentor. Suppose StarClan spoke to us in another way, she suggested, feeling her heart begin to pound. The whole forest was turned upside down. If apprentices knew about prophecies that had not been sent to older cats. What other way? They haven't sent me a single dream or sign. They might have sent one to another cat. To you. Cinderpelt rounded on Leafpaw, their blue eyes blazing. Have they? No, but... No. StarClan are silent. Cinderpelt's brief flash of energy vanished and her tail drooped. They must want something from us. But what? Leafpaw found it impossible to go on. Perhaps this wasn't the right time to speak after all. How could Cinderpelt feel if she found out that StarClan had chosen to speak to inexperienced warriors and send them out on a journey instead of the medicine cats? She felt so lonely and confused that she instinctively tried to reach out to Squirrelpaw and share her sister's thoughts. But she found no comfort there. All she could sense was darkness and the noise of rushing water. Leafpaw, are you coming? With a jump, Leafpaw realized that Cinderpelt was several tail lengths ahead of her. Sorry, she called back, and plodded on at the rear of the patrol. Her head bowed down by her fears for StarClan's chosen cats, and for all of the forest, and most of all, for Squirrelpaw, wherever she was. That's the end of chapter 10. That was the last chapter for the stream. So, Wampus. You're not gonna be able to fish here in a second. You haven't catched any legendaries, have you? He still didn't get a legendary. Aww. Yeah, I see some rares, I see some uncommons. But you haven't got any legendaries. I'm sorry, Wampus. Hold on. Should I Should I be nice and like up the chances of legendaries for like the next 5 minutes before I end stream? Would that be nice of me? Because you guys look like you're struggling. No, it's fine. Are you sure? I could totally do it. I promise. Maybe I could do that at the beginning of stream. Like have 5 minutes of improved for like the beginning of the stream until I like switch screens. That's a thought, isn't it? Because that would be fair, because then Holy would be awake. You guys would get the chance to pop in and be like, hey. Because you guys know when I start. Or I could do for like five minutes at the start and then like 5 minutes at the end of stream. That'd be nice, right? Let me make a note. Five minutes starts and end of stream. Since there's gonna be a lot more names. I put that note there. I will put an announcement too, maybe, after the stream's over and start that next stream. That way you guys have a chance. That would be a total of 10 minutes, 5 at the start and 5 at the end. So, Wampus, you have anyone for me to raid? Who do we want to raid today? I hope you guys had a nice day, by the way. I know Mondays can be kind of, you know, long, grueling. And just listening to his story is nice to relax. And of course, I have a lot of books to go through here. Let me see if I can just go to my list. Do I even have anyone on my list? No one's doing ASMR on my list. Not tonight, too many big ones, yeah. Yeah, I'm seeing Star Citizen and Subnautica. It's Shrilly and Elion, and Elion has like 95 right now, and I'm like, I don't want to do that. And he's always like crazy energy, you know what I mean? Freaking nipple lasers. The freaking nipple lasers get me every time. Huh. I could always try to blind raid someone. Also, my cat scratching at my door. There's an emote for that. There's a fucking emote for that. Oh my god. I was not expecting the emote. I'm not gonna lie. Fucking nipple lasers. Why is there boing boings with it? Why is there boob physics with the lasers? Oh my god. I'm tearing up a little at that. Made me wheeze. You want stationary I mean, when I've raided into his streams, they're usually stationary. They're not, you know, they're not boinging up and down as the lasers go around. He rotate. Yeah, I know they rotate, but his Bonga Zanga Galoos did not bounce when the lasers are going like it does in that emote. They for sure. No, they don't. Not unless he updated the physics for it. Let's raid him and shit. Fuck. I don't know. Is everyone okay to go to a super energetic person right now? I guess we could try it. we should like have a raid message that we show up for the nipple lasers. Womp is quick. Make a raid message sick. We showed up for the nipple lasers. I'm gonna do that just because that's the funniest thing ever. You want to check about the bongus loose physics, the mobs. We're here for the nipple. Oh my god, you actually did it. Hell yeah. Let me just copy that. Let me just open the thing in my my other, yeah, okay. Get that message ready and then click on his thing. And then we're gonna start the raid, and then I'm just gonna give you guys like a few seconds to like copy that, and then we're just gonna head over. Alright, you guys, thank you for showing up. We're gonna go over to Elian, and he's pretty energetic, so if that's not your vibe, I won't blame you for leaving. But if you want to stick around for the raid, go ahead. I'll catch you guys later. Bye bye.